Welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line with our guests, President and CEO of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Mark Wilson, and Mr. Francisco Sanchez, Undersecretary for International Trade for the U.S. Department of Commerce. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Secretary, let's start with you. The U.S. has a stated goal of doubling exports nationally over the next 5 years, and the Florida Chamber has a goal of doubling Florida origin exports over the same time period. How do these policies complement each other?
Well, first, let's talk about how important both of these goals are. The President announced this goal 2 years ago during a State of the Union where he announced the National Export Initiative. And he did so because exports are so important to our country's economy. Last year, 50% of the growth in our GDP came from exports. And I'm delighted that Florida has also set a goal for the state to double exports during the same period. I think they match up very well, and I look forward to working with Florida to help it achieve its goal.
And Mark, the Chamber's really been diligent with that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our efforts to double Florida trade over the next 5 years tie in perfectly with the federal goal. And I think what we can do is get beyond the talk and we can start to align policies so that state policies and federal policies really move the whole country forward, not just Florida.
Well, one of the other things the Florida Chamber has been focused on and has been a great proponent of the ratification of trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. Why is that so important to the state of Florida?
Well, sure. So when we talk about trade, if Florida were a country, we would be the 20th largest economy in the world. And so when we look at exports and we look at trade, just these 3 free trade agreements mean 20,000 new jobs for Floridians and more than $41 billion in economic activity. So this represents a tremendous jobs opportunity for the future of Florida.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you're taking part in the Florida Chamber's International Days. What was the message that you were carrying or bringing to the state of Florida?
My message is that the work that the people in the room are doing to promote trade, to promote policies that support trade, what Mark talked about in terms of the importance of these trade agreements that you mentioned, it's not just about export promotion. It's about reducing trade barriers. The more we can reduce trade barriers around the world, the more accessible markets will be for American goods and services.
Well, Florida Governor Rick Scott, along with the Florida Chamber, have conducted a number of international trips, trade missions, generating relationships, trade, business opportunities. From a federal perspective, how important is that?
Well, these trade missions are very important tools. They're very useful tools. The federal government, through my office last year, the International Trade Administration, sponsored 31 trade missions to approximately 30 countries with 400 companies participating. That gave those companies an opportunity in a cost-effective way to check out new markets around the world. So I think it's a wonderful tool to introduce companies to new markets and help them make sales.
And Mark, manufacturing continues to play a strong role in Florida's international trade efforts. Why is that, and why is it so important?
Well, sure. Manufacturing has always been important to Florida, but over the next 10 years, it's increasingly important because as we seek to double Florida origin exports, that means that our Made in Florida campaign means that's manufacturers. As these ships come into Florida, they need to leave full. And so huge opportunity for manufacturing in Florida. Currently, over 340,000 Floridians are employed in the manufacturing sector. It represents already 5% of our gross state product, and we really need to help manufacturing grow.
And Mr. Secretary, sort of looking ahead, what are some of the things that the Florida Chamber should be keeping its eye on?
Well, I have to say the state of Florida, along with the Florida Chamber, are leaders in the country in terms of export promotion and helping businesses with tools. You have an export finance operation here. Very few states in the country have that, and you work very closely with the XM Bank that's also a tool to help American companies finance their exports. So you've done that. You have Enterprise Florida that has, since its very beginning, focused on international development. So I would just say that we need to continue to be the good partners that we've been to take full advantage of these growing markets that are happening all over the world.
And Mark, we just have a few seconds more.
Sure. Well, I'd like to thank the Secretary for focusing on Florida just for a while. This is such an important opportunity for us and our partners at Enterprise Florida the Manufacturers Association of Florida, and the Florida Chamber, our entire International Business Committee, thanks you for being here, and we look forward to growing Florida.
Well, Mark, thank you. It's been an honor to spend this time with you and with all the people that are here for International Days.
Thank you.
Secretary Sanchez, thank you very much. Mark, it's a pleasure being with you again. And to you, our viewers, we thank you for watching, and we hope your bottom line is looking up.